One of the countries that we have been learning quite a lot from in the last few years is Japan. While we have gotten certain things quite right, our professional development did not move as fast as we would like it to be. We continue to be stuck with the workshop style, and somehow we were stuck with the workshop style. So around 5 to 6 years ago, I and a few colleagues and I at the NIE heard that this year professional development will become the focus. And we begin to think like, so what can we help our teachers with in the area of professional development? And we read the literature and it's quite clear that effective professional development in mathematics or in other subjects as well has to be authentic. Shouldn't remove the teachers from the room. I mean, things that we all know, but it's confirmed by the literature. In Singapore, we are quite careful. So we always pay some attention to research. We know we knew these things anyway, but in Singapore, we always like to check and double check, simply because we cannot afford to make too many mistakes. If we make a mistake, there will be 2 years wasted, and we really cannot afford to waste those 2 years. So we found out that in Japan, they have, in fact, that's the way they train their teachers, pre-service, in-service, especially in the elementary schools. They don't do workshops. Their teachers learn whatever they learn by doing this thing where they observe lessons and they study the lessons. And they are critical but yet not nasty when talking about lessons taught by other people. They are very professional about it. And this is all because the sessions are facilitated in a certain way. So at this eye, we became intrigued in this form of professional development. And fortunately, someone asked me to join the APEC group, and I went to Japan many times. Betsy is part of the group. And we begin to see firsthand how this is done. In between, I also have other opportunities to see the same thing happening in other schools in Japan. And we saw how collaborative, authentic professional development spreads good practices. Today, if you go to schools, you would have heard that the schools are all very interested in lesson study. Many have embarked upon it, and others continue to want to do something about it. Many workshops done by foreign experts, Betsy is one of them, on lesson study has been going on in the last few years. Lesson study is when a group of teachers identify what they want to learn. They identify the research theme. The research theme is just whatever they want to learn, like how to engage pupils better. And once they have this research theme that will stay with them for at least a year or more, hopefully, they will plan one lesson within a unit. And then they will study materials, as I mentioned earlier. And then one of them will conduct the lesson, called the research lesson. While one of the teachers conduct the research lesson, the rest, who were also planning the lesson before and knew the whole thing about that lesson, begin to study if whatever they were discussing earlier is indeed true or not. So they have multiple lenses to learn how to engage pupils, if that is the goal. The first lens is when they study curriculum materials. The second lens is when they study the students' responses. And after the lesson, hopefully within the same day, they will be talking about the lesson. And this is the third lens for them to learn the same thing. So you see, this is like multiple ways, multiple approaches to learn one thing. And the understanding they derive is strong because of these multiple lenses used to study the same thing. You study this thing by preparing the lesson. Then you study again when the lesson is ongoing. And you study again when you're talking about the lesson. Finally, you study the same thing again when you are revising or refining the original lesson. These multiple lenses to study the same thing give the teachers a deep understanding to something that's very complex, and that is called teaching. So because teaching is so complex, it's probably not sufficient anymore. If you want average teachers to become excellent teachers, to use the workshop style. Maybe workshop style is good enough to get competent teachers. At least in Singapore, the MOE is of the view that the majority of our teachers are competent already. But we need now the average teacher to be the master teacher. How do we move them? Workshop style can no longer be the only way. Lesson study should complement the workshop style to meet this agenda. So because we learned from Japan, and people familiar with lesson study, here you see a lesson going on in one of the primary school, a lesson which I described much earlier. So you saw the lesson in progress, the teacher studying the lesson, and you see the same group discussing the lesson. There were also other teachers who are not directly involved in that lesson, but they watched the lesson and they were also interested in the discussion that goes on, and hence they were sitting around the table. Something we learned from Japan. I had many opportunities to go to China, thanks to one of the senior professors in the mathematics and mathematics department in the NIE, Professor Li Pengyi. And whenever they go to China, either he dragged me along, and after a while I begged to go along. And despite my very, very poor command of Chinese, he is very poor, I managed to benefit from those trips. And something that struck me, and because we go in a small group in very unofficial capacity, we get to see everything. So not only do we see the very good schools in the cities, we also see schools that struggle in the villages. But something that remained the same is the mathematical rigor of the Chinese teachers. I think that's something in Singapore we can learn from them. How to focus so much on the mathematics rigor and not just the strategies. Sometimes we focus too much on the strategies, cooperative learning, multiple intelligences, understanding by design, and the mathematics become not so rigorous. But these teachers, they really place mathematics rigor on their agenda. That's something we can learn from them. Of course, we do not want to adopt everything. I, for one, feel very uncomfortable to see 10-year-olds sitting like that, with their hands on the side, their legs in a certain position, and 45 of them all seated like that. Although there are many good things in the classroom, I suppose because of cultural differences, for example, this is to emphasize on conformity, we probably do not want that. So, you know, some people like this to have in a classroom because it's easy to manage. But I feel very uncomfortable when I see a bunch of supposed to be lively kids behaving like that. In the US, over the last 2 years, you probably have heard a lot about debate on having the core standards, again, which we have heard a lot here. And by being there, I have learned quite a fair bit about the discussion that goes on in how they come to this core curriculum. Because this is really new to us in Singapore. In Singapore, curriculum development is apolitical. It is a curriculum development process. And you know, because we don't have 50 states. But when I, as an outsider, see the discussion that goes on, I begin to realize that, oh, you know, there are actually quite a lot of these other things. So sometimes in Singapore, because we are quite small, we are quite protected, we do not know a lot of things. And by looking at other countries, how they do it, we begin to learn certain things, which, and if I now have to do something about curriculum development in Singapore, these are the lenses that will be quite beneficial. In the photographs, you are looking at Scarsdale, one of the elementary school in Scarsdale, the teachers doing a form of lesson study. And on the top picture, you see the teachers participating in doing mathematics during the summer institute, the Scarsdale Teachers Institute. These are other images of classes doing lesson study. The photograph at the bottom of the slide is actually not from the US, it's from the Philippines, but it's actually the same lesson. The lesson is actually this one. Those of you who have heard me or participated in my courses before, you probably have done this activity before. So I asked the children in Philippines as well as in the US to think of two numbers, example 1 and 2. And you use the 2 digits to make the first number. So if you thought of 1 and 2, you make 12. The first one will be the tens, the second one will be the ones. And then you use the same numbers to make a second number. So because you have chosen 1 and 2, you make 3. So you make 2 numbers from the 2 chosen digits. So you have chosen 4 and 5, you make 45 and 9. If you have chosen 37, 3 and 7, you make 37 and 10. If you have chosen 1 and 9, you make 19 and 10, and so on. And finally, you find the difference between those 2 numbers. And the trick is that even though the children will not let me know the second digit they thought of, like in the class in Scarsdale, they showed me the first one, 9, but they refused to show me the second one, and they turned it around. Despite not knowing what the second digit is, the teacher is supposed to be able to tell them what is the final answer after the 3 steps. So if you have chosen 3 and 4, you make 34, you make 7. The third step is 34 minus 7. The teacher is supposed to be able to tell the final answer without knowing the second digit. So that was a lesson that I showed you, and here you see the students participating in. By conducting lessons for other teachers to do the lesson study, I also learned quite a fair bit about how teachers learn. So by doing work in other places, I have brought back with me quite a substantial amount of knowledge about how teachers in different cultures learn to become better teachers. What are the factors that influence that learning? And in turn, I'm able to apply that when I teach courses to the Singaporean teachers. And this is another example of how Singapore learn by doing work in other places. Something from the US that we also learn a lot, because we become familiar with their standards, or what we call curriculum. As we become familiar with their curriculum, we also notice that they do things a bit differently from us. Sure, it's very easy to, just ignore what they did. After all, Singapore already do quite well in things. But that's not what is commonly discussed in Singapore. We really don't pay so much attention to the fact that but it's a bit intriguing to us. They have probability in some states in the 3rd grade. Why is it that in Singapore we only teach it in the 8th grade? Are we wrong? So these are the kind of discussion that happens in the rooms at the Ministry of Education when they review the curriculum every 6 years with an interim period of every 3 years. So we talk about this, and we can talk about this because we know what they are doing and we are intrigued and we want to know why that's the case. So in the next curriculum that we are going to have in 2013, would probability be introduced any earlier? Because in Singapore, we are an outlier. We do not introduce probability under the 8th grade. Should we stick to our present scope and sequence? What about statistics? We hardly do any real statistics. All we did was to draw graphs, read graphs, draw graphs. And even then, the graphs are really just arithmetic in disguise. We are not really doing enough statistics. Look at this country, they do sampling. Even in elementary school. Isn't that important? Okay, maybe 20 years ago it wasn't. But today, statistics is becoming quite important. Should we reconsider? So this is another example of the kind of discussion that happens in the drawing board rooms where Ministry of Education and the stakeholders meet to talk about curriculum development. Although many people say good things about our curriculum, we are far more critical than other people towards our own, because we know the difficulties we face in the classroom, the weaknesses our students have, and we got to continue to see what other people do so that we're able to benchmark what we do. And even though in the end we may not do what they do, at least we know that we have considered those, and our rationale, our reasons are clear. We learn as we provide professional developments in other countries, and we now know some things are tied to culture and others are cultural. So at least for me, I'm sure for many of my colleagues who do this kind of things often, this is something that by this time, if you do this for 5 to 10 years, you will already be able to say. So that's a form of research, but not the kind of research that we may typically associate with. But the kind of data collection that's informal, and then we synthesize it, we think about it, we correlate with previous findings, and we form our own knowledge that will become good. In nearer home in Cambodia, despite the lack of resources and no mathematics educator in the country, we are so enthusiastic. When we conduct workshop, in this case not by myself, at the Ministry of Education, there is a program called Teacher Work Attachment, TWA. You remember that in the video? The teacher who went to work in a factory, that's called Teacher Work Attachment. Every half a year, a group of teachers will do their teacher work attachment with me. So they just follow me wherever I go to see how I train teachers. So they normally teach children, but they want to also have experience in guiding their colleagues. So they shadow me, and at some point they sit down and we have discussions, a modified lesson study of sorts, and then they will now plan their teacher training program. And they will bring this outside Singapore. And every half a year, a group will go to Cambodia, and in the lower photograph you can see the hundreds of Cambodian teachers who would have traveled many hours under very bumpy conditions to get to this place, which is extremely hot, very uncomfortable. And they will sit there and they will do the activities for the entire day, for 3 days in a row. And we are not at all deservingly compensated. Their pay is so negligible, you wonder why they even want to work. They all get their money from a second job, but they are teachers because they want to teach. And there are so many of them. And the enthusiasm, so these are the kind of lessons we also learn as we begin to work in other places. How passion and enthusiasm are also very important components to improve education system. So we have learned much actually by adapting a rigorous teacher professional development program to local cultures and local conditions. And that's something that probably I have learned a lot in the last 5 to 10 years as I begin to try to teach the way we teach in Singapore to the Singapore teachers to a wide range of conditions. So I just want to end this slide. Thank you very much.